and welcome to another episode of Fluid Life Unfiltered. I'm Kaylee Ricci, Fluid Life Account Manager, and I'll be your host. Today with me is Andre Michel from Cogito Reliability. Welcome.
Good morning, Kylie.
So, Andre Michel, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you come to be in the reliability industry?
Yes, it's a little bit of a long story. I was born in East Africa, in the Indian Ocean, the Seychelles precisely. And I moved to Europe when I was a teenager. I moved to France and did my high school degree there, and then became a chemical engineer. So I did a chemical engineering degree there. The 90s were not a good time to graduate in chemical engineering. So I went back to the Indian Ocean, the Seychelles, and started my career in a brewing company, Guinness. Soon the company Guinness guided me towards maintenance engineering. In those days you were voluntold to do a job rather than choosing your career, but I embraced the career that was coming my way. So I started working in the field of total productive maintenance, known as TPM. And after a while I decided to move back to Europe, where I worked for Intel Corporation. The company that manufactures microprocessors. You probably have one on your computer right now. It was a fast-paced, high-tech and NASDAQ-listed company, a different approach to work. I was there as a maintenance systems engineer, and that's where I got my first overview of a large manufacturing plant with worldwide ramifications and all the aspects of equipment maintenance. After that, I moved to Canada, where I worked for 20 years up to last March in the oil and gas industry. That's where I met the person who had the most influence on my career in reliability engineering. His name was Paul Barringer, and he introduced me to the concept of reliability engineering analytics. I also did another degree part-time in the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Alberta.
Oh, we're fellow University of Alberta graduates.
Yeah, good. You're an alumni too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's great. So there were some various courses in reliability engineering concepts too, and so which I was happy to take. I worked as a reliability engineer in refineries and later on in pipelines. My last job was for Enbridge Pipelines, and it was an interesting work journey where I was given the opportunity. Well, I was working as a reliability specialist, and I was given the opportunity to set up and manage a reliability team. So I am not a manager at heart. So I set up the team, and when the team was up and running, I switched back to an engineering role, which I really enjoyed. And I retired last March 2023. I do have a lot of respect for people who are managers, even though I don't have a passion for people management. I'm rather an engineer, right? But I'm happy I got to try the role. As I said, I retired last March, and I've always wanted to spend my time doing what I like, helping customers, sharing knowledge, and helping people move ahead in the field of reliability engineering analytics. So I set up my company, Cogito Reliability, and specialize in reliability statistics and reliability modeling. Reliability modeling is also called RAM modeling. It's the acronym stands for reliability, availability, and maintainability. And going to my pastimes, my favorite pastime is biking. I really enjoy fat biking, so it's a good day to do that, both in summer and winter. And I also play the guitar, and I'm slowly building my music studio at home. I'm also a staunch supporter of women in STEM, and want to see more gender diversity in the field of reliability and maintenance. So on this last note, I'm very honored to be here with you, Kylie.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, wow, that's quite the journey to get here today. And congratulations on the retirements and everything.
Thank you.
No, we're happy to have you here today. So what would you say the definition of reliability is, and how would that differ from maintenance?
Sure. In academic terms, reliability is the probability of success, probability of achieving something, as opposed to the probability of failure. So it is the probability of success by definition. So the true definition of reliability, if you go to things like Wikipedia, it's a probability that an asset will perform its intended function in a specific mission time, let's say in a year. So for example, what is the probability that your car will run for a year without failure? So maybe in your world of lubrication, what is the probability that a pump you're working on will run without needing a lube change for a year? I'm going on a limb there because I'm not a lube specialist. So as you can see, there's an element of statistics in reliability engineering, and it deals with numbers, crunching numbers, probabilities, and future events, trying to find out. It's like having a crystal ball, if you want. Reliability engineers, they translate the language of data for the organization. Maybe like yourself, you translate the language of a lubrication report to a customer. What is the lubrication?
Yeah, what is it telling you?
Yeah, what's it telling you?
What's the data telling you?
My job is to say what the data is trying to tell somebody, right? So going to maintenance engineering, it's complementary. They work together to reliability engineering. It is more of a practical function, so closer to the asset and focusing on kind of the short-term, medium-term aspects related to the equipment. What's going to happen tomorrow? What should we do tomorrow? And whereas reliability deals with more long-term. What is the probability of failure in 5 years, 10 years, and stuff like that? So reliability engineering deals with numbers, and the maintenance engineer deal directly with equipment and the practical aspect to asset care. So, for example, I call them MEs and REs, the acronym. An ME will define the best maintenance approach for an asset. Say, I think we need oil analysis. So the RE, when he hears that, when they work together, he will crunch the numbers to justify this approach to management. Those things cost money, right? So how can I justify it? And then look at the data once the loop program is implemented and suggest improvement. Also confirm that it was the best approach, and use the outcome to define other tools like PF curves or other maintenance strategies that we can define, that the ME himself can define. So basically, the two complementary functions. It's not like one is more important than the other, but they do different things, and those two things merge into the asset care program for the company.
Okay. Are there other differences between what reliability and maintenance are, and how would you say those roles of a maintenance and reliability engineer differ?
Yes, I recently wrote an article on this, and you could go to my website, cogitoreliability.com, to read it, as mentioned earlier. The RE role is more number crunching, whereas the ME has a more practical approach to asset care. I think I mentioned this earlier. Obviously, the RE is office-based, whereas the ME would spend a lot more time in the field, and he knows his equipment very well. He also interacts very closely with the techs and understands their challenges. The ME sees opportunities to save money or prolong their lives. He needs a backup in that towards kind of crunching those numbers and those probabilities, so that he can justify with the best asset management strategy for the organization. So he needs backup from the RE. All the creative ideas he has, the RE will translate them into a good numerical strategy. In essence, they are complementary functions. One relies on the other. So I personally have a saying that the RE is the eyes and the ears of the ME in the boardroom, whereas the ME is the eyes and the ears of the RE in the field, right? So
they're really complementary.
exactly. And maybe somebody will ask in the audience is, how do I become a good RE? And my answer to that is you have to be a good ME to become an RE. So for example, I was an ME before I became an RE. And the reason for that is you have to understand the challenges of the field, you have to relate to the tools, you have to understand how equipment works. So it's good to be an RE before. Well, it's not really good. I think it's an excellent transition from being an ME to an RE. Right?
Got to have your boots on the ground first.
Yes, exactly.
What would you say some of the key calculations that reliability engineers should be looking for in the roles?
So first of all, this is a great question, by the way. So first of all, without data or records, we REs cannot do our work. We really rely on data and historical records to do that. And by the way, this is a reminder to companies to have their CMMS set up well at the start of the operation so they can gather all this information that we need, right? And maybe other people need. So REs do all sorts of calculations in order to assist stakeholders, maybe like yourself, and especially in management, people who make decisions around budgets and expenses, help them to make the best decisions on their operations. So some examples would be, what is the probability that this equipment will fail in the next 5 years? How many spare parts should we keep on in our stock, on our shelves at any one time? What's things like min-max level for supply chain? What is the optimum or most economical time to replace a piece of equipment based on the life characteristics that we calculate or that it shows? Is it economical to add redundant or spare equipment to the existing layout, right? So one thing, maybe just going back to a recent event and not blaming anybody, we had this failure there. Maybe they'd want to, again, I'm saying I'm not blaming anybody because I don't know the real cause of that. Maybe having some redundancy in the system so that this will not happen again. But that's a job that a reliability engineer will look at. And based on Kaylee yourself, your favorite topic, I know, is there a bathtub curve for the equipment and what does it look like, right? And what decisions can we make using this curve? I've not worked so much on lubrication and the concept of reliability applied to lubrication, but there are some interesting topics we could explore on lubrication, like the PF curve using lubrication conditioning monitoring, lubrication-based infant mortality, the frequency, looking at the frequency of lubrication inspection, right? So you don't want to do your inspections too often because they cost the company money. So you want to optimize the inspection schedules, and you could do the same thing for vibration. Actually, I'm doing a paper right now on a PF curve with a customer. It's based on vibration analysis, but I think that this could be done using oil analysis, right?
Mm-hmm. Kind of like all of the data that you can acquire, making sure it's in that CMMS, nice, organized. Because if the data's not organized, it's not really usful.
Yeah, and it's logged properly, and it's an easy accessible format. So, for example, when did we? The simple example. So you have those lubrication reports, right? You do them on equipment, so just put them in your CMMS, and then you have to have criteria where the lubrication. When you look at your lubrication report, there might be some elements in there that represent an impending failure. So making a note of that so that when a reliability engineer looks at that, he can help guide the maintenance strategy around lubrication.
So not just having the data, but actually looking at it and making sure the right people look at it.
Yeah, making sure that it goes into the CMMS. Otherwise, you're going through, files and paper. It's not a very effective way to work. Right?
Absolutely.
CMMS should be the repository for that.
So how can these be applied to what millwrights and field techs do in regard to their daily maintenance? Like what is the relationship between the reliability engineer, the maintenance engineer, and the boots on the ground?
It's a very good question. So at the end of the day, be it REs, MEs, mechanical techs, lube techs, we are all working towards the same objective, which is making the asset last longer, spend less money on maintenance. But let's not forget, when it comes to field workers, they have the highest exposure to equipment failures. So we have a responsibility to make the equipment safer so that they can go home to their families. Making the equipment safer means, trying to have a more predictive program and seeing failures coming and acting before they actually happen in an unplanned manner. So when it comes to field personnel, their role they have a very important role in maintenance is caring for the asset in the field and using their specialty to make sure that they provide the best the best approach to equipment maintenance and repairs, right? They also have a secondary role, which is entering records, because they actually do the work, and so they have to enter the records in the CMMS, so that I can do my job, right? So basically, it's like a circular role. So they help me and I help them, and so we kind of in it together, right? I, as an RE, I am here to help them in terms of defining the best maintenance strategy so they can do less firefighting and, as I mentioned earlier, be less exposed to unplanned failures and focus more on preventive work. One thing, it's important because we rely on field workers to enter data in the CMMS, but we also have to, and that's a lot of, I've done that a lot in the past, is trying to explain to field workers why this is important. How can this benefit them? So what I can do, in other words, what I can do with this data to help make their life easier, right? So it's not very often that we have this, we go back to the field and tell them why they do that. Because think of it this way, if you're a tech, you're entering data, you don't know where it's going, maybe you're not motivated to do a good job, right? And you can't blame them. So this is another call for organizations. If you're getting data from people in the field, so try and explain to them what the importance of the data is, right? It has to be explained. Also, one important thing to make life easier for techs, so they can give me what I need, is make the CMMS work for techs rather than the other way around. Help them focus on their prime job, which is maintaining equipment, and spend the least amount of time entering records or doing reports, right? It means good training, having devices that, it's becoming more and more common then to have handheld devices. When you're doing a job, you enter the report right away, right? Rather than having to go to an office, find a computer, and then enter the data, right? Simple records and entry processes. In the past, I've seen CMMS where a tech at 2 o'clock in the morning has to sift through a drop down with 200 entries. Just make life simple for people, right? You can also encourage them when they're doing a good job. So the techs, when it comes to me and the techs, I rely on their data and I try to give them the best based on the analysis I do with the data.
Okay, kind of what you were explaining there sounds very much like when Fluid Life was trying to design our app. we definitely had those millwrights, those field techs in mind, because you're right. The easier it is for somebody to do something, the more data integrity there is. All they have to do is scan the bottle, and they don't have to use a pen and paper. They're not up till 2 a.m. Scanning oil analysis bottles.
Yeah, exactly.
They can just do it right then and there in the field, 30 seconds, and it makes their lives a lot easier.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask them the feedback, because sometimes we design those tools and we give it to them, but it's good to ask them, oh, is it working for you? Is there a tweak
absolutely.
I can do? And sometimes they're very creative, and they feel part of the process also.
So now that we've talked a little bit about, like the millwrights and the field techs, what are some of the key tools every professional in reliability should be using?
So I would use the more the word attribute rather than tools. So the attributes for a good that reliability engineer should have is a good understanding of how the CMMS works, and also data system. Sometimes the data is really, it's there, but it's in a different format, and maybe it's not clean. So we have to be able to see, and I use the analogy of trying to, the goal is there, but we just have to do a little bit of digging, creative digging. Then when I mention the word gold, I'd like to also have a call to action to organizations to say that data is gold. It's very, very important. So treat it as a precious asset. So have a good CMMS setup. I think I've said that many times. Another attribute is, I stated earlier that a good RE was once a good ME and can relate to the equipment in the field. This is the correct career progression in my experience. Obviously, the RE should understand and master the fundamentals of reliability engineering, the statistics, and be able to apply them in a practical way to help customers make good decisions. So you don't have to explain all the theory, but trying to come to this simple language so that the customer can make a good decision, right? Also, you have to be a good listener, understand what the customer needs you have to ask the right questions. And you also have to be creative as an RE to find opportunities for the customers. Sometimes customers don't see the opportunities that are there, but you can see them, and you can offer those opportunities, offer them to explore those opportunities. Hey, did you know you could do this, right? I think I might have mentioned that earlier. Be able to explain things in simple and plain language so that the customer is not confused by jargon or unnecessary concept, and gets what he needs to move on to the next decision-making process. So with regards to the tools, there's lots of software out there for reliability engineering, but you need to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you might be putting others at risk. Software only makes the work go faster, but not knowing what you're doing, it ends up being garbage in and garbage out. Right?
No, I've definitely seen, just from my experience as an account manager here, that a lot of companies are starting to focus on their database. I've got a few customers right now that I'm helping with database cleanups, because they've got all of their their data analysis and their oil analysis results in our MyLab program, but it feels not as accessible to them because it's not as well organized. And you touched on how important it is to have their CMMS system, or even their oil analysis results in a clear and manageable way. So I think that industry is definitely starting to make sure that is an important aspect of their programs.
Yeah, and I would add, this is really good, and thanks for doing that. It'll make life easier for lots of people. So whilst you're on this journey to fix your data, I would also ask them, well, you're going to come to the end of your journey where your data is good. So ask yourself, how are you going to crunch it? What are you going to do with it? It's nice to have good data, but you really need to do something with it.
No, absolutely. If it's just sitting there, it's not helping anybody.
Yeah.
No, thank you for talking about what reliability is, what maintenance is, and some more practical and real examples of all this. So no, thank you for joining us on Fluid Life Unfiltered here, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was an absolute pleasure, Kylie.
Thanks again, and thank you everybody for listening. Have a great day.